are going to talk about some rope drop tips and, I guess be my experience rope dropping Hollywood Studios particularly.
Yeah.
And some of these things would apply to all the other parks as well. But we're going to talk about specifically Hollywood Studios. So I suppose this is the part of the show where I shift it to you, since I feel like I will do a lot of the talking here.
Sure.
So then I'm going to hand the baton.
The baton.
Yeah, I said that one wrong. Han. Apparently Han is going to grab it. I'm going to hand you the baton of the hosting duties. So
Han the baton.
if you're listening, I've handed Jamie a golden baton. So here you go.
No, you Han the baton. Now it's in my head. Okay, so we're going to talk about rope dropping Hollywood Studios. In your opinion, of all 4 of the parks, do you think this one is maybe one of the most important ones to rope drop?
Probably. It depends on what you want to do. But yeah, I mean, given you've got Rise of the Resistance, you got Slinky Dog. So you've got 2 major rides that there's a lot of wait times for. So
Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah, so you definitely have to pick one. But if you want to ride one of those without, a lot of wait and you don't want to get Genie Plus, then yeah, I would say this would be one where, you can't do all of it, but you got to kind of have a plan. Okay,
so you're gonna take us through your morning, sir.
Well, all right. How far do you want to go?
This was weeks ago, so please.
Well, this is the day. So our daughter and I, we had a little daddy-daughter morning. This is the day we went to a Halloween party. So we planned on only spending 2 to 3 hours at most in the park. So it's just sort of because you have early access.
Well, she wanted to do Slinky Dog really bad, and I said the only way you're going to do it is you're going to have to rope drop. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, all right. So that's what they did.
Yes.
Okay. So you got up, and what time did you get? Because we were staying at Caribbean Beach. So what time did you get to the Skyliner?
I'd say we probably got to the Skyliner 7:15, 7:20, somewhere around there.
Okay. And was it running yet?
It was running.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was running. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney advertises that the Skyliner opens an hour before early entry, but occasionally they will run it a little earlier, like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So they did on this morning. So that's cool. I would say when you're doing early entry rope dropping, get to the park 30 to 60 minutes before it starts. So for this morning, it started at 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
So 7:30 is a good time to get there because of what we're going to talk about in a second. So by the time you got to the Skyliner and you got over there, it only takes 5 to 7 minutes maybe when you're actually on it.
Yeah, it didn't take very long.
Okay. So when you scanned in through security and all that stuff, how long do you remember how long you were waiting before you got to scan in?
We got there. We didn't wait very long. One time we got there, we maybe waited 10 minutes and they started letting people into the park, and it was actually 7:40 around there.
Okay.
And they let people in, and then we were walking back. So we walked straight back to Toy Story Land to get in line for Slinky Dog. So we were in line for Slinky Dog a little bit before 8 o'clock.
Okay. And I know with Slinky, they start moving the line quicker or something earlier than when early entry starts.
So they did. So the line looked really bad. We got back there. It was quite a bit long ways back there, but they didn't let anybody in the queue yet. So they didn't let anybody in the queue.
Like the actual queue.
The actual queue to the ride until about I'd say 8:20. We waited there for a little bit. And then they actually didn't let anybody get onto the ride until 8:30.
Oh, okay. So you got to fill in.
They filled in the line, but once they let you into the line and going, it was basically a walk on. So that just tells you, if you see that long line and you're there early, mm-hmm. you're not going to wait because usually at that point you see it, we were almost to the entrance of Toy Story. Not to the entrance, but to the curve when you walk into Toy Story Land.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just because nobody's in that queue yet. So at that point you'd be assuming this is going to be a 100-minute wait. But once you fill in, and when you go in there, you realize how much you wind around in there. We maybe waited in line 5 minutes after people were riding it.
Okay, so they started the actual ride at 8:30.
Around there, I did look at. They might have started a little bit early, but they didn't. Sometimes I've heard stories, and we've seen it sometimes where they start letting people on quite a bit earlier. They didn't on this morning.
Okay, interesting. So I'm just refreshing. So you got in line about 7:45 for Slinky Dog and got onto the ride about 7:35 or 8:35.
Around there. Yeah.
Okay. So roughly a 15-minute wait.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Cause like that's like the lowest wait you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
In the morning. Or I mean, I guess you could catch it at night too if you want to do that. But for rope dropping, that's why we say it's important to get there an hour beforehand, because you get to be one of the first people to get into the park, to get into the line.
Well, and also, I mean, you're still waiting in line, but by the time you get that done, then you still have extra time.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the difference there instead of waiting that, during, like, say, the middle of the day.
Absolutely. Okay, so when you got off of Slinky Dog, obviously that ride's only a few minutes, and you still had, 20 minutes left of early entry?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do after that?
So our daughter, she wanted to ride Toy Story Mania.
Okay.
So we did that, which was, it was a straight walk on.
Perfect.
I think it said 10-minute wait, but yeah, there was a walk on there. So we rode that. Mm-hmm. And went from there. So by the time we got out of there, I think the park was open, but we went over to Smuggler's Run.
Okay.
And that was maybe a 15-minute wait.
Perfect.
Very short. Rode that. Mm-hmm. And then we got out of there. So at that point, it was about, I'd say 9:20, 9:30, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And then our daughter at that point was kind of like done-ish. Like, so we were going to do Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, but it was down. Mm-hmm. So it had said it was like a 30-minute wait, but we went over there, checked the board, said it was down. So we decided the park was open at that point. Things were going to start piling up. Mm-hmm. And so we just went ahead and did the Muppet Show, which it had been a while since I had done that. And it had been a while since she had done that. Uh-huh. So we did the Muppet Show. Again, that's never
you just wait for the next show.
So we maybe waited like 15 minutes in there, which that's cute. I mean, I enjoyed Muppets, and she liked it because I don't know if she remembered it. It had been a couple of years since she did it, but we did that. And then at that point, Star Tours was like a 25-minute wait. Like, things really started piling up at that point, and she was tired.
Yeah.
So the last thing we decided to do was like, well, let's go meet Olaf, because Olaf was a short wait. Uh-huh. So I'm not gonna lie, she was a little cranky because she was really tired that day. And I was like, well, let's go do it. So we went and did Olaf, which she was happy about. So I think we waited for Olaf, 15 minutes. It wasn't a long wait. So the waits that ended up having a long wait once the park opened was like Slinky Dog, Rise of the Resistance, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, those main ones. And then Star Tours, if Star Tours is over 20 minutes, that's a long wait to me.
For that ride.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Smugglers, I think, started creeping up to like 45 minutes on that morning there. So we did Olaf, met Olaf. She was happy about that. She was surprised he didn't notice that she lost her tooth, because she lost her tooth the morning before.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, well, he just forgot to say something. But so at that point, it was a little bit before 10 o'clock, and she was tired. We'd already done basically everything we wanted to do. I mean, she mainly wanted to ride Slinky Dog.
Right.
So at that point, she doesn't like Rise, and she didn't really have much interest in that. So I got her some ice cream, as a 7-year-old once at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then I got a coffee. We took some pictures in front of the theater. And at that point, that was kind of our morning. But we did we rode Slinky Dog, Toy Story Mania, Smuggler's Run, did the Muppets, and we met Olaf. So we did 5 things in the matter of less than 2 hours.
Right. Which is really good.
Yeah, really good. And it was, 30 minutes isn't a lot. I think it should be closer to an hour, personally speaking. But even with the 30 minutes, you've got quite an advantage there.
Absolutely.
And you have to choose. So if you want to do Rise, you could go do Rise. It probably was a similar situation to Slinky Dog. Mm-hmm. So it's like you kind of have to pick and choose on that.
Right.
So obviously we do Slinky Dog. But yeah, so I mean, you get a head start to where, when everybody rushes into the park, they're also going to go to the busy ride. So if you get one of those out of the way, then you're freed up to do like, Smugglers or Toy Story Mania or one of the secondary rides, and you don't have to wait a long time. So you knock out that big one there, and it kind of frees up your morning a little bit more.
Absolutely. This is why we always stress like staying on property or staying in a hotel that's like a good neighbor hotel or that offers the early entry perk is like major, because you can get a lot done without having to utilize Genie Plus, early
if you don't want to use Genie Plus.
Yeah, if you don't want to use it.
Or if you do still want to do Genie Plus and do that, you can do quite a bit, but yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, you talked about taking the Skyliner. I'm going to back up a little bit. We talked about taking the Skyliner, and you got there like a little over an hour before early entry officially started. But most hotels have the bus transportation, where you can take to Disney. They also have like the boats and everything. So the boats, would you recommend taking the boats like in the Crescent Lake area, like Boardwalk, Beach Club? Would you recommend people take the boat or no?
In my experience, if you're really like pushing time, like you've got a timetable you're working on
with rope dropping.
Right. I wouldn't, personally speaking. I enjoy the boats, but I probably wouldn't. They kind of tend to run slow over there.
Well, I mean, if you're from Swan and Dolphin, and you might be able to hop on and go, and that might be okay.
I've actually never done it first thing in the morning, so I can't really speak to it. I just know I don't know. To me, the boats are a little inconsistent. So if I was really pressed for time, I would probably not.
I would just walk.
That's what I'm saying. If I was in that area, I would just walk over.
I would definitely just walk. If it were just me, I would just walk for sure. For the buses, though, so they start picking up an hour before early entry.
Yes.
So
typically, yeah.
Yeah. For in this case where early entry started at 8:30, the buses wouldn't even start until 7:30.
Right.
So my advice, if you are wanting to be very early or, in the front of the line to get into Hollywood Studios or as much as you can, you need to get there to the bus stop like 10, 15 minutes before that first bus. Because once that bus goes, if you get it and you miss it, you got to wait like 15 or 20 minutes for the next one.
A lot of times. Sometimes it definitely depends. You may do that. Sometimes they do have more buses waiting. Kind of depends on how they're setting it up that morning. I know like at the values, sometimes if you're going to Magic Kingdom, they'll have multiple buses in a row because they know that that's a heavy traffic. So it does depend. Sometimes you may have another bus waiting for you, or you may be waiting 15 to 20 minutes.
But don't chance it.
I wouldn't. I would. Right. I would not say plan on there being an extra bus waiting there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, Jared, what is rope dropping? We didn't say exactly what that is because maybe someone listening doesn't know.
Well, rope dropping. Well, in Disney history, there used to be an actual physical rope that basically they would put across that divided the guests and the park. So sort of like you can't cross this line. And cast members would drop the rope when the park opened, and then people would mad dash, and it was all Mad Max, and people would, all sorts of things happen. Probably, I'm guessing. But so now they don't actually have a rope. It's just what you call getting there right when the park opens. So,
well, some places do have ropes. So Hollywood Studios doesn't because they just hold you at the entrance, but there is a little rope at Magic Kingdom.
In some way, I just mean they don't have like one giant rope,
and it's not at the entrance like it used to be.
They have roped off areas where you can't go.
Could you imagine if they had the traditional rope dropping at Magic Kingdom like they used to? That would just be super crowded in the front. I mean, that's why they let people in.
That's why they let they let people in because I think if you understand like crowd logistics, like the more people get gathered together, like it's kind of actually frightening. People they just behave differently in a mob scenario. So it's smart to just be like, okay, let them into the park because at the very least, like from their perspective, they can't ride. The rides aren't open yet, but you can get in line, which disperses the crowd. Plus, people go in there and they'll buy stuff. The shops will be open usually, so it's like you can go get coffee or food or like go buy some things, and it just disperses the crowd a little bit. So that's why they do that, so you don't have this massive, and also too like this massive line with security now and all these things like that. So
right.
And I know the morning we were there, I mean when we got there weren't a ton of people there yet, which I was a little surprised by. But within the 10 minutes we were there, like there was definitely a big line starting to form, which is why they let people in.
Well, you followed my advice. You got there an hour before.
Your advice?
Well, the advice.
Our advice?
Our advice. I mean, getting there at 7:30, open officially started at 8:30. That's an hour before. And then they let you in like 10 minutes later. So,
yeah,
it was a good thing you were there.
So I guess at this point we could talk about, this is obviously my personal experience there, and like you can apply that to other parks as well. I mean, it's the same idea applies. Get there early. Like Magic Kingdom, obviously they're going to let you into the hub a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other areas you're going to go to. So definitely, first off, we'll talk about some rope dropping strategies.
Specifically for this park, though, because this park is different.
But also for all parks, I will say, utilize early theme park entry if you can.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a one for sure. Mm-hmm. And I would also say, know what you want to do before you go. I think the last thing you would want to do is get in there and then be like, what are we doing?
Right.
Because at that point, if you're already there early, like if we would have hesitated on like, let's say we're waffling which way we want to go, you could go from like a straight, like you wait in that line anyways to a walk on to you're waiting 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people piled in behind us at that point. So I think it's get in as soon as you can and then know where you want to go.
Yeah.
So
I got that.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. Yeah. Sorry. You said it. I couldn't.
What's that from?
Lion King.
Oh, I was.
Scar.
Sorry. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
You're a villain now.
Anyway, but so some other strategies for rope dropping at Hollywood Studios is and this is just what I'm thinking of. So if Rise of the Resistance is on your list to do that day, go there first. Like rope drop that ride.
Yes.
Because it will notoriously get very long waits, and it also breaks down a lot.
I was gonna say if I would get that done as soon as possible for that reason alone, which it can break down quite a bit.
Yes. If you don't do Rise, do Slinky Dog. Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster are also options, but they don't have as big of weights right off the bat as the other two.
Yeah, I feel like if you did one of the, say you did Slinky Dog or Rise, and if you hustled, you rode those really quickly, you could get over to Rock and Roller Coaster or Tower of Terror.
I do not recommend that.
Well, I'm saying you could, and you would have a lower weight potentially. I'm saying if these are two things you definitely want to do, that would be a way in which you could do it.
So if you did Rise, see the thing is with Rise, it's a long ride. So if you did that, by the time you get out, the park is pretty much open.
Well, so I'm saying, the reason I'm saying that is if you want to do those is because a lot of people when they first get to the park are also going to go to Rise and Slinky Dog. Mm-hmm. Some will go to Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, but let's say your two main things you want to do are Rise and Tower of Terror. You could knock those out first thing in the morning with relatively low wait times. Yeah, it's not, I mean, you're going to be walking a lot, but you could.
I mean, if it were me, I wouldn't do that going back and forth, like crossing the whole park like that early. I would do, like, if it were me, I would do Rise, and then I would stay in Galaxy's Edge and do like Smuggler's Run and get those things over with. And then eventually make my way over to Tower of Terror or use Genie Plus or whatever.
I'm just saying, there's many ways you could go about it. I'm simply saying if that was like, because a lot of people will say they for sure want to do Tower of Terror. My thing would be I wouldn't rope drop Tower of Terror because I think you can ride Tower of Terror like a second ride, less way. Like if you want to, if you want to do Tower of Terror and Slinky Dog, I would put Slinky Dog first.
Yeah. For sure.
And then, so I think that's where you have to like prioritize. Like even if Tower of Terror is like your number one thing you want to do, it's not going to have the wait time that a Slinky Dog does. So if you want to do both, put Slinky Dog ahead of Tower of Terror.
Right. I mean, I would say about, I don't know, like 40% of the people in early entry go to Rise, 40% go to Slinky, and then like 20% go to Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster. You think that's a good spread?
Probably. I mean, something around there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. Another one that you mentioned that you did this was you got Starbucks, right? Kind of like closer to the end of before you guys left, right?
Yeah. So I always say, this is why I shared that tip a couple of weeks ago, where it's talking about like getting your coffee ahead of time the night before instead of getting it the morning of. So I wouldn't get Starbucks or any of the coffee. I mean, maybe you can make an argument for Joffrey's because those stands aren't as busy as Starbucks. But if you're wanting to go to Starbucks, I would skip it first thing in the morning because it is packed in there.
Right. And like you're wasting valuable ride time.
And that's where it comes down to like prioritizing, especially early entry and rope dropping, like prioritizing your time to be the most efficient. Yeah. So you can wait in line for Starbucks, but you're also, relatively speaking, the Starbucks line is the Starbucks line. Like it's going to move. But if you wait in that line and then go, say, get in line for Slinky Dog, you're now going to wait an hour for Slinky Dog. So these are things where you just have to prioritize your choices or first thing in the morning. So I would skip the Starbucks and get your coffee after you've done, maybe get your coffee at like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then do it that way. So that's just, it just comes down to like trying to make choices that, you can ride stuff more and then you get stuff done earlier in the day. Yeah,
absolutely. I have one. So, we're talking about rise going down sometimes. So sometimes when you get there, and you don't know this until you actually get to the ride, rise is down for the morning. Mm-hmm. You could arrive and it's not opened. If that happens, and this is one of those rides that you have to do, immediately go onto the My Disney Experience app and buy a lightning lane. Because if for some reason it does not open the rest of the day or you're unable to use it, you do get a refund.
True.
So, you know what I'm saying? So like that kind of ensures that if you do get to ride it, then, you have like an actual time where you can go back. And then if you don't, you will get your money back.
Yeah. And again, this is if like riding rides is like your number one priority.
Sure.
And there are some people that go that all they want or the main thing they want to do is ride rides. So I would agree. Because if it doesn't reopen, which does happen sometimes, that you do get a refund on that.
Or do both. If you really like it, rope drop it and get a lightning lane.
You can, yeah.
Do both.
Very true.
And just a reminder, hotel guests can get individual lightning lanes for Rise, for example, at 7 a.m. Otherwise, everybody else is at park opening. So you could still get it before park opening guests get it.
Yeah. Agreed.
So do you have any other strategies you would say for Hollywood Studios?
Well, Hollywood Studios is a park of dead ends.
We talked about that.
So it's a little hard. This is why our discussion about, going to Tower of Terror afterwards, it's not like we're Magic Kingdom. You can make a circle and catch everything. And so, you'd say you could do the same thing with Epcot and other parks. This one is really, you have to be really kind of more efficient or really know what you want to do. So first off, like know the rides you want to ride. The meet and greets, I would put in the second or third tier. Those like the Olaf thing, I don't think that ever gets over really like a 20 or 30 minute wait. I mean, maybe on a really busy day it may get more. Mm-hmm. So you do your meet and greets later. So I would prioritize the main ride you want to do first thing in the morning and knock those out, and then go to like your coffee or getting food, and then the meet and greets, stuff like that. Basically when it comes to that park, that's how I would go about it, and then have a plan there just because of the weird layout of the park.
That's a good point.
So if you go to Toy Story Land, you can get to Galaxy's Edge. Right. So those two flow together.
Right.
But if you're also like Tower of Terror, you've got to go completely I mean, you almost have to go to the entrance of the park to then get over to Tower of Terror and Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
going back to kind of what we talked about with, you were talking about zigzagging. If you want to hit like Tower of Terror and Rise, like you could do it pretty quickly in the morning. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I would probably try and get all of the rides in the land done and just be done with that. So like, let's say you rope drop Slinky Dog and like you guys did Toy Story Mania right after that. I would knock out Aliens Rolling Saucers if that's, if it was
you could, and it did have a low wait. It had like a 10-minute wait.
Yeah. Get all of those done, finish up with that land, especially Toy Story Land. It gets very hot, especially in the summer. It gets very hot there, especially in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
And get it done in the morning, and then move on to a different land. I don't know. Like it could work, especially since Toy Story Mania does get long lines too. Like
it can.
Its wait does get long.
It kind of depends. Like Toy Story Mania is one of those where if like Rise is down, and Slinky Dog on that day we went there, it was down later in the day. So Slinky Dog does go down sometimes. So if like Slinky Dog goes down and let's say Rise goes down, Toy Story Mania is going to have a really long wait.
Yeah.
Or a longer wait.
Right.
So it's kind of like it ebbs and flows a little bit. It doesn't have a consistently long wait, but it can get up there sometimes.
Right.
So one thing I would say about when it comes to planning and rope dropping and stuff like that is, like we said, have your tier per se, and then you may have to be a little flexible because like the day we were there, later in the day, Slinky Dog went down. Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway was down right off the bat. So ideally, the plan for us would have been ride Slinky Dog, Toy Story Mania, go hit Smuggler's Run, and then go hit Mickey and Minnie's, and then maybe do Muppets, and then do. So we potentially would have got 6 things done. But Mickey and Minnie, we would have been able to get right in line, like either right at open or right before it. Yeah, or somewhere around there.
Okay.
So you may have to, and if you already know the tier in which you want to hit things, you may have to be a little bit on your feet about what you need to do. Because again, the last thing, like, it seems like a lot of pressure, and it is. And this is one of the things that people have a complaint when it comes to Disney World. But you may be stuck in a spot where if you sit there with a group, let's say you got a group of 5 people, and the ride you want to go is down, and you're sitting there talking about, well, what do we do next? Let's say it takes 20 minutes to figure that out.
I hope not.
Right. Or whatever it is. Like, I don't know, maybe people get in huge fights about this. That's valuable time you could be where you go from waiting 20 minutes to waiting 45 minutes. Stuff like that. Yeah. So just being like, okay, this is down, we're going to do this, and just have a backup plan, for your morning is what I would say.
And also a good strategy too is like if you're going to be there for early entry, rope dropping, you're just getting as many rides as you can done before it gets too busy. On that second ride of the day, so you've done your first ride, you've gotten through it, it's still early entry, you're getting on that second ride. When you're in line for that second ride, put in a mobile order for some breakfast.
Yeah, you can do that.
And then as soon as you're done with that ride, you just pick it up and you can eat it, on the go. Hopefully you're not doing Rock and Roller Coaster after. But let's just say you do Mickey and Minnie's or something.
Maybe you like to live dangerously.
So that's a good strategy. That's a good strategy anyway, is to do mobile order while you're waiting for the next ride.
And if you wanted coffee and you weren't stuck on Starbucks, you can get coffee at a lot of the quick service places, so you could mobile order it. If coffee was like a really big thing and you don't want to wait till 11 o'clock, you could try and do it quickly that way. So
can you mobile order Starbucks?
No, you can mobile order. So a lot of the mobile order, the quick service places will have Joffrey's.
Oh, that's
so it's not Starbucks,
okay.
But you can still get like they have some of the cold brews and things you can get from the.
You psyched me out. I got excited for a second. I was like,
if Starbucks had a quick service line, I feel like it would just be longer than
or mobile order.
It would be like Slinky Dog. I think you just have everybody there trying to mobile order, and it'd be longer than anything. But
probably.
But yeah, that's all the things that I can think of. I mean, all in all, it was a really good morning, and it was nice because we didn't plan on being there very long, but we got 5 things done. I think we were in and out of there. It was almost an hour and a half. It wasn't that long. We were there. Then we were back at the hotel, plenty of time before the party that night, kind of took it easy the rest of the day. So you can get a lot of stuff done. Again, we knew what we wanted to do, walk with purpose once you get into the park.
Walk with purpose.
Know where you want to go, head high, all that stuff. But
if you're driving, by the way, the parking plaza doesn't open until an hour before the park. So if the early entry is at 8:30, it doesn't open until 7:30. So I would be there waiting for it to open so you can get in, park as soon as you can so you can get in.
So what you're saying is rope drop the parking.
Rope drop parking.
So you can rope drop the park so you can rope drop the ride.
Listen, it's a lot of rope dropping.
This is rope dropping inception. Okay, you're going to rope drop the rope drop.
I have to say, these tips for rope dropping Disney has actually helped me in my regular life.
Well, I mean, that's true.
Like a lot of places where people just aren't familiar with, rope dropping stuff. I'm just like, oh, I'm the first one here. Or I'm the first one to get this. Nobody cares. No. Okay. Wonderful.
Like noobs. Been doing this a long time. But all right, well, you got any other tips that you can think of?
At the moment, no. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of strategies for anybody that's, going to do this or has done this and wasn't successful, and things to keep in mind. And I wanted to hear your recounting of your morning.
Recounting of my morning.
Yeah. And if you're listening and you have some other tips that we did not mention,
keep them to yourself.
No.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Stop. Oh. We would love to hear those. So you can always reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads.
I would say email.
Twitter.
Do you still check Threads?
I don't.
Yeah, don't reach out on Threads.
I haven't used Threads anymore.
Really, what Jamie meant to say was Instagram or email is the best. Or if you're in the Facebook group.
Yeah, which is Capture the Magic Community, in case you're wondering.
Yeah. So. I think it'd be funny. And if you have any tips, just don't send them to us. I'm just kidding.
That's terrible.
That was why I said it would be funny.
I know.
Anyways, a lot of this stuff does apply. Again, we will talk about other parks as well as we do things. But the same idea, I would say the biggest thing I would say, no matter what park you're going to rope drop, would be just having a plan. That's the worst thing. You see people doing this. Be there early. And you see people like at rope drop and they're going like, where do you want to go first? I'm like, oh, come on. Like, and they don't, or they're going to the wrong thing first. Like that's the biggest thing. They know what you want to do and then understand, if you're going to Magic Kingdom and you're like, let's rope drop the teacups. I'm like, don't rope drop the teacups. You can ride that anytime. Like, so it's stuff like that. But yeah, but that's all I've got. And I think that's all Jamie has as well.
I think so.
Okay. Well,